Beginning January 1st, 2020, the recreational use of cannabis will be legal in the state of Illinois.
Available to stream now, my mini doc dives into the history of Illinois legalization, starting with
January 1st. What should we expect? The biggest thing that we need people to understand is that January 1, in terms of the criminal justice system here in this state, is the end of prohibition.
See how Illinois missed its chance at real cannabis reform with key failures, including the fact that
the program includes regulation on possession limits.
So people can still be arrested for possession.
And I want to highlight that in its first year of legalized recreational marijuana in the state of Illinois, they arrested 3 times as many black people for possession than any other race.
We've run into so much cannabis, we've run out of places to put it.
I have represented people and taken their cases through the court system who got charged with more serious crimes only because the police said that they smelled cannabis. And not because the police said you have illegal cannabis, or not because you have too much cannabis, or not because you're high on cannabis, but because I can smell it and that's it.
Attorney goes, he understands that he can't be smoking and his cannabis flower shouldn't be open. And I was like, I'd like to say for the record that I was not smoking and my flower was not open.
So that's where we're at right now in Illinois, and I hope it changes.
Start watching now at colememo.com/minidoc. Hey, Phil, how's it going?
Going good.
Thanks for sitting down. I just want to say at the top of this episode that the mini doc is released. You can go to colememo.com/minidoc to stream it now. That link will be in the show notes if that's easier. I'll also spell it out really quick. colememo.com/minidoc. You can stream it for free right there. And Phil, you came to the not only the worldwide premiere at LMC, I saw you on the virtual premiere, but we did a private premiere in Blue Island. What'd you think about the mini doc?
It's great.
Yeah. Thanks for coming out.
Just a great explanation of the shitty rollout of recreational cannabis in Illinois.
Yeah. And you were in it too. I think that's what some people might realize. I don't know if they'll connect those dots.
I was in it a couple times.
Yeah, you were. You were. Yeah.
I was tempted in the comments on LMC's channel to say, who is that handsome man?
That's awesome. Yeah. So shout out to LMC, a big time cannabis content creator. I believe you actually maybe showed me LMC content for the first time, to be completely honest, Phil.
Well, he does a lot of like stuff about cannabis history or black markets or stuff like that.
Yeah, and I ran into him at Benzinga, and just credit where credit is due. First of all, awesome person. But within like minutes, I just like floated the idea of, I was like, hey, I've got this mini doc, I've been thinking about rolling out, and I know you've got an awesome platform, and this is like some of the kind of the content you produce. Would you be cool with me, like, I don't know, dropping it on your channel or doing some sort of cross collab? And like without hesitation, he was like, dude, absolutely, let's drop it. And
well, I would think too that I would think maybe one of the reasons he was out here at Benzinga and in Chicago is because like Midwest cannabis markets and stuff like that is like less of a, it seemed like it was like less on his horizon. Yeah, because he's from like Seattle.
Sure.
I mean, obviously,
yeah,
the East Coast, like the coast just get more attention,
Right. Like the West Coast obviously has a huge scene, and even the East Coast, like you say, has a pretty like interesting scene to cover. There's plenty of stuff to cover there. So.
Well, just like the cannabis culture in general,
True.
Like I feel like the Midwest cannabis culture is kind of like a little more under the radar.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like I feel like the closest thing that we have to a real culture in the Midwest, and let me know what you think about this, is like Michigan.
Well, I mean, it exists everywhere, right? But like,
sure.
How much does the rest of the country talk about it?
True. That's a good point.
Like Michigan definitely gets more attention nowadays. But I mean, like, as in you're delving into Illinois' cannabis history, like stuff like Hash Wednesday.
Sure. Yeah, that's
like
a good point.
Like there has been a cannabis culture here. It's just not that like pronounced or developed or widely known.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, something I managed to try to fit in there. It was hard to fit it, but if you go to colememo.com/history, you can learn about Illinois cannabis activism and specifically Hash Wednesday. There's also a series that Phil and I have been making over the years, the Illinois Cannabis History series, which really, kind of inspired the mini doc, I will say, because those episodes are for the, I would say, real cannabis policy nerds, But the idea behind making the mini doc was like, Phil, I feel like I podcast with you, I podcast with a lot of different people. Sometimes I do, solo podcasts, and sometimes I feel like I'm like screaming into the void. And it's hard to like when people ask, like, what is driving you? What are you so upset about? It's hard to like put it in a bottle because it's like, where do I begin? And so like it feels very therapeutic to put out this mini doc because it's like I feel like if anybody ever asks me that question, it's like this is a good place to start. Just like like honestly, if you watch it at 2 times speed, you can get it done in 30 minutes, and you'll know like at least you'll get a sense of why I'm so frustrated. And I don't even say
and
I mean we.
Yeah. No, and I think it like definitely serves that purpose.
Yeah.
Because like this is not an issue that most people are aware about or care about. But if you can give them like a 60-minute documentary to watch that's like entertaining and informative, like I feel like someone could watch that and come away with it and share our opinions of how fucked up the whole situation is.
Yeah.
And beyond, like, because it focuses a lot on the fact that like the stuff Evan Bruno talks about how there's more ways to get in trouble for weed now than there used to be. Like just this whole idea of legalization and decriminalization and what those words mean and what we're actually doing.
Yeah, exactly. I tried to like really lean into that. A quick word about the folks who made this episode possible. Cheers.
You've all seen me post about the infused drinks, but River Bluff also sells edibles. These are their berry crunchy balls, which have 150 milligrams of Delta 9 per package. Again, you all know my drinks, I love them. They've also got like milk cookie sandwiches. These things are dangerous, and by that I mean, not literally, I mean they're so tasty that I can't help but have multiple. I personally love the milk chocolate chip cookie sandwich, 25 milligrams THC per cookie. I mean, you can't beat it. You can order all of these online. Once again, they're on riverbluffcollective.com. River Bluff is a licensed social equity cannabis business.
River Bluff Collective has appropriate doses for all adults ages 21 years of age or older. Once again, you can order all of these goodies from riverbluffcollective.com. Telling me some of the feedback I've gotten after the worldwide premiere is that they were surprised. They said they were surprised because I was calling it a mini doc that it was as long as it was. And actually the first cut of it was 30 minutes. And it was basically only that criminal justice focused element. But a lot of the feedback I got in some of the private screenings was that like, Cole, you missed this whole other element of the story, which is the licensing. And I'm like, that's a good point, because as we always talk about, it is like it like perpetuates like the cycle, arguably. It's a point, actually, one of the points that you make in the mini doc, which is like, so you give out this limited amount of licenses, but criminalization continues. Like, how are you going to right those wrongs?
Yeah, it's like the snake eating its tail.
Yeah, and it was hard to blend those two ideas together, because if you think about it, those are really like those are our gripes. the fact
Oh,
that
right.
criminalization continues, and also like on the flip side, like I think honestly, if you ask us, like we're fine with just decriminalization. If there wasn't like a legal market, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But if you're going to ask us how to do the legal market, it's like it should be open, obviously.
Oh, right. Well, and also like even, as it is a comprehensive picture now, I feel like you could really, if you wanted to, flesh out like another half hour, like all you would have to do is find like someone whose personal story tracks the whole documentary kind of, and like insert that story kind of along the way, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like it's not really, it's a documentary.
Hmm.
You don't need to keep using the word mini.
True. True. I think I call it that. I always like try to keep
I feel
bring
like you're
myself
being
down a
like
peg.
you're like being humble.
Yeah. I try. Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's, I don't know, it's a real battle, honestly, that I face. If I could say this like really quick, it's like, I don't know why, but I'm so hesitant to embrace. I don't think I'm a journalist. I don't have like standards. I was talking to this talk. I actually spoke to Jay
You
Rosenthal
just
the
quickly
other
say,
day.
I don't have standards.
Well, I had to give credit to Jay Rosenthal because I got a picture with him from Cultivated Media, Cultivated Media. They like partnered
Hmm.
with Gronin for a while. And Jay Rosenthal does the like Daily Show, and his partner Jeremy Burke, I believe, does a lot of the writing. I might have this a little bit wrong, but anyways, I got a picture with him. I said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know you're one of my favorite cannabis journalists." And he's like, "Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. I do commentary. Like, I don't have any standards." And I was like, oh, I was like, hey, I really relate to that statement because sometimes people say I'm a journalist and I'm like, I don't have any standards. And I don't mean to say that I don't have standards. It's a joke, like,
Right.
but like, I didn't go to school for journalism. I do my best to be non-biased, but I would say more so I'm like maybe an activist that just like captures these things.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I
it's
think
like,
there's also like in the history of journalism, there's probably plenty of journalists that never went to school for journalism. Like especially back in the day before it was like you needed a college degree to get any kind of job.
yeah. Anyways,
But
though,
or
that's,
like
I
or
think,
like or like someone like a Hunter S. Thompson,
true.
like did you ever read like Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail? Where
Hmm.
he just makes up the stuff about one of the candidates just like tripping on Ibogaine the whole it's like if people call him a journalist, you could be a journalist.
Fair enough. Yeah. And again, I don't know why but that aside, I guess that is maybe why I've been calling it a mini doc. But to your point on like part two or like a continuation, like I already have some ideas because like if you noticed, and a few people told me they noticed this, like one of the things I didn't really comment about is like the quality of Illinois weed, or like even the regulations some of the operators have to deal with, like frankly, like how like we've talked about it many times. There's really good reports. You could probably already see how I can fit them in a mini doc. You remember that opioid one, the comparison between opioids and how cannabis is transported
Oh
in the
yeah,
state
yeah.
of Illinois. Plenty of material, still to elaborate on in like a part two. And what I love most about it, not to give away my complete idea for a continuation, but I kind of say this so hopefully somebody else can take the ball and run with it too. That's why I put out the bibliography as well, so that people can take all of my source material and do it better. But my idea for part two is to lay out those different problems that do exist, and then to kind of introduce the fact that hemp just blew away all those problems. It's like an
Oh
interesting
God, I mean,
facet that's come.
you could do a whole mini doc on its own with the cannabis versus hemp situation.
Literally. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it perfectly sets that up because there are all these real problems with the cannabis industry, and then hemp came in and showed how it could be done. And again, I not to give away part two, but I think that's what it is. Um, anyways, thank you, Phil. I wanted to thank you for coming out, to support me in person. That was really cool to have like people come together to watch
Oh yeah, it was fun.
the mini
It
doc.
was a packed house.
Yeah, it was. And it was cool to be able to like give away all those hemp drinks. Like that's something you can't do with regulated cannabis. Like there's possession limits and shit, right? And there's
At
gifting
when
limits.
when the documentary was over and you were like taking Q&A, I just saw one guy like he had already had one or two of the drinks and he just like went up and grabbed like a full 4-pack.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
Like for the road.
Yeah, I saw plenty of people grabbing like 4-packs for the road. We shout out to River Bluff. Awesome group of people. I mention them in every show. There was probably a bumper at the beginning of this show talking about their products. But another shout out to them because they provided drinks, like a fucking lot of drinks for all of us to enjoy during the mini doc, which was super cool because, you know, we were watching it inside, so it's hard to like we weren't able to smoke. So to be able to drink cannabis was really a nice compromise in my opinion. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it was fun.
Very cool. And
we love Blue Island Beer Company.
Blue Island is awesome, yeah. And the Urban Legends is coming up. You know, by the time that you hear this, I hope it's not too late. It'll be this weekend, I believe.
I just love that guy that owns that place is so like pro cannabis and pro cannabis events. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I like other breweries that have that scale of venue and stuff and outdoor space. Like, you would think more of them would get on the bandwagon, but I mean, maybe other brewery owners aren't quite as big of potheads.
Yeah, I don't know. He was very supportive, very encouraging. Like, not only is
it endears me to that place. Like when I go down to Blue Island, because there's other places I like going down there, I always pop into Blue Island Beer Company and get a beer or two because I like to support it. You know, that I know that place is so on board with cannabis and cannabis events and stuff like that.
Yeah, but just to take it a step further, like he was very encouraging of me to like to do more, you know, and the fact that he's even like saying that and has that on his radar. Like he said that he recognized a lot of people out of the documentary, like Toy Hutchinson and stuff, because he just said he like really keeps track of politics and stuff, and she's apparently from the area or something like that.
Yeah, not far.
Not far, yeah. But that I think just takes it a step further. Not only is he, you know, pro to the cause, but he also seems to be or sympathetic to the cause rather. He also like understands the process, and that's just something huge that I thought was really cool about him. And it was just like when we left the documentary, he was very encouraging. He's like, you should like take this and like I don't think I'm gonna do this because I'm a very busy person, but he's like, you should run for office. And I was like, I don't know that I can be a single subject politician like that, you know. I don't think
I feel like for someone like him, like you run a brewery like that in a like, you know, Blue Island, it's not a small town, but it's a municipality on its own. Like you probably have to get involved at some level locally and like your local representative as far as permitting and zoning and all that kind of stuff goes. So it probably to him that probably doesn't seem like such a like far off thing, but to you and I, it's like run for office. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't think I'm ready for that. They would pick through my podcast and be like, you see this guy is sitting down with Dana Larson talking about drinking coca and 2CB, you know. He's sitting down with the owner of a brothel. And, yeah.
I don't know though. I don't know. Some people can run for office and get away with quite a bit.
That is a very good point. Well, yeah, so I hope folks that you check out the mini doc, like I said, just tried to put, you know, I guess another just like thought I wanted to end on is like, it's like whenever people ask me like where to start on this podcast, it's really hard because I feel like sometimes my podcast, it's like depending on the episode you start on, you're like diving head deep sometimes into policy that unless you're familiar, it's like I try to do my best to give you background and stuff, but sometimes I don't know, maybe it's hard to follow.
No, and that is a good thing. The documentary is a good thing to have to kind of direct people to be like, look, here's my case in large.
Yes. Thank you.
Like here's the big picture.
Right. Here's the big picture. And I feel like it's like a starting point. It's a gateway. And I feel like if you watch that, you can kind of almost after that start anywhere. You know what I mean? And kind of maybe you still need a little background on the specific issue or whatever, but you like kind of get the foundation. I feel like to your point, the mini doc's like the foundation, you know?
Well, and like you said, you've been touring it around to some colleges, so you're just trying to radicalize the youth.
That's right. Yeah, I've got another showing at another university next week. It's been really cool. I got to give a shout out to the University of Illinois, Illinois State University, Southern Illinois University. I mean, fucking awesome to have. We've had people from these colleges on the show in the past, but like to have their support and to be able to like screen this for kids that are paying for cannabis education, like it's like crazy. Like it honestly like is so cool.
Now, are those kids showing up stoned as fuck?
Um, I mean, they all are very nice kids. That's what I'll say. I don't want to rat them out. I mean, what do
I
you
would
think?
hope they are.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, but the Illinois State University one was a super cool showing. They made like popcorn at it. They like brought a little popcorn machine in. It was just kind of cool to have like a little, you know, student club showing. And um, I don't know. I just feel like if I was in college in a cannabis club, like I'd be excited for something like that. I hope it was cool for them. So
Yeah, it's just interesting because like a cannabis club when I was in college and even when you were probably would have been like a normal group or like something for the legalization of it. So it's just interesting that now they have like cannabis club, but like that's not really I wouldn't think like activism is their primary goal, right? It's probably
Right.
more like
Yeah.
education, networking for some kind of career stuff.
hmm
Like it's just interesting to think about.
Yeah, no, to your point, that I didn't think about it that way either. Like, they've got some really good guests. Like I've seen like the type of people they'll invite in, like for example, like other people in cannabis media, like Illinois News Joint. They'll invite in, different people, like representatives from these different brands, people from the government agencies, to give little presentations or whatever. So I think these colleges do like a really good job of like trying to give you as much of a spread as you can in Illinois. You know what I mean? In terms of like you say, it's like a networking. That's really kind of what it is at this point. You know,
Except for when you come in with the radical documentary handing out mushrooms to all the kids.
correct, correct. Handing out drinks and mushrooms and yeah, joints and stuff. Yeah, that's kind of I would say a blast to the past. Um, like you say, that was an interesting way of thinking about it. I didn't think about the fact that a lot of these clubs started as like activism wings, kind of like that's how a lot of some of these
Well,
radical
just
ideas come in the country.
in prohibition times, if you
Right.
were in college in some kind of cannabis club, it would have been like for the legalization of it, right?
hmm Yeah. Like a little normal club or stuff like that. And it's like, young people with crazy ideas. That's how you kind of move the pendulum sometime. And so I'm hoping that some of these ideas can light a spark. And so far, I've had some good reception, I would say, with not only the screenings, of course, but like students that just didn't know that like some of these issues still existed, and like,
Well, I mean, to be fair, like if you aren't someone like us who just loves weed and pays attention to this stuff way too much, like you need someone to kind of frame like that whole thing, decriminalization, legalization. Like if you ask the population at large, what's better, decriminalization or legalization? I guarantee like 95% of them would say legalization.
true.
But you and I would say decriminalization.
Right.
So that's like, that's the whole, you need like someone to frame that for you, which I feel like the documentary does.
And one other thing I wanted to talk to you about I can't believe we forgot about until now. This is a good one to close on. I, made a point that there have been stories we've tracked together, some episodes we've done together. One that I know with Jungle K, examples of the continued criminalization of cannabis, and it's colememo.com/isitlegal. Some of the comments we got on. I saw at least a few of people saying they got pulled over and got in trouble for the smell of cannabis. That they got one person said they got arrested for possession of cannabis, and another person laid out a whole crazy story about how I guess police said that they smelled cannabis outside of their house and raided their house, even though they were a med patient. Like crazy details, and to hear these people come out of the
which is
woodwork, you know?
crazy because that was the whole reasoning when they were like, you need to have a med card to grow at home because cops need to have a way. So my only thinking would be that maybe he had moved and hadn't updated his address. That would be like my only thinking as to what could have
Yeah.
caused that, unless the cops are just dumb. They didn't like check with because there's a database that has all of our addresses and our med cards. So,
Right.
but it's not surprising at all. I mean, there was that guy, I don't know if it was like 2 years ago at this point, but well into legalization. This guy, it was in Pecatonica, which I think is like way west, maybe over by Iowa, but like not a big town. It's, probably a more conservative area. And he got his house raided because he had 9 plants, like raided by SWAT.
Wow.
Like, what?
Yeah, exactly. The SWAT team. That's
like,
crazy.
even if it was 30 plants,
exactly.
just knock on the door. What are you doing?
Right. Exactly. Literally, you don't have to send an army.
Like, unless you have some reason to believe, this is some horribly violent organization that's, like, I don't know. It just seems like such a holdover attitude. Just
Right.
either of these cases.
Exactly. And I don't mean to bring up like another idea, but people have asked me. I've not actually made a statement about the back and forth that I had with Jim Belushi yet. Like I've kind of just shared the clips. Like I think I've talked to you about it in private and everything, but I've not really talked about it on the podcast yet. And like to your point, like I think Jim, it was just a back and forth moment. It's hard to have a nuanced conversation like we're having right now. Credit where credit is due. I think Jim and I would agree that, he described cartel operations, like those types of things often involve like human trafficking and forced labor and other violent offenses. So yes, send the cops in for those violent offenses. But if we're talking about like cultivation of cannabis or something like that, like that's where I don't think the cops should be used, right? If it's like you say, it's just that's going on, cultivation of cannabis. Well, we don't need the cops to show up. Nobody with guns need to show up. But if it's, forced labor, human trafficking, cartel type activity that you're describing, like, okay, that's a different situation. People flashing guns, like that's literally a crime. Brandishing a weapon.
Clip. The reason I thought that clip was interesting was just because he didn't seem to have any thought for whether or not that would sound bad. Like, I get it. Like, I get that if you're a licensed cannabis operator, you're in multiple markets. Like, you don't want unlicensed cannabis sales. You want everything to be veering towards this regulated market. But like, yeah, just the idea of advocating police to enforce cannabis laws to help your bottom line in the end. That's just a weird position to be okay expressing in public. Like, I get it.
Yeah, he did use some, I would say, the worst words. He said something to the effect of it's protection of business. Like that's what the police are. And it's like, is that what the police
they are. They are like robberies, stuff like that. Like you could
Fair.
argue.
That's a good point.
I don't know though. I don't know where in the last decade, since places started having regulated markets, the whole reasoning for legalization was cannabis doesn't hurt anybody. We should stop arresting people for this.
Yep.
But all of a sudden, when there was a regulated market, black market cannabis is poison.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad, or it's bad for society because it hurts our businesses. Like,
True.
no, like everyone should just have the right to grow weed and share it with whoever they want. And also, like, I don't know, call me crazy. I think you should be able to, like, you can make home brew in some parts of the country. I think you can even distill your own alcohol. I think you should be able to, like, sell or barter with that stuff. At least the beer and wine, because that's not like gonna be like, what, methanol, where it can like make you go blind or something.
Yeah.
Like there's no danger in homebrew other than that it might be shitty, which is kind of the same with home grow.
Yeah.
So I just feel like, yeah, like you should be able to like sell your homebrewed beer to a certain, like, maybe there's some bar, like you don't make more than 30 grand a year off that or something.
Yeah. To briefly extend your point, like the illicit market has, or the traditional market has always been unlicensed. And like, do you think all of these like issues just like that you described, like you said, this idea that illicit or unlicensed cannabis is toxic, like how all of a sudden is that, like, that has literally been the primary form, like,
Also, like thinking back, like I remember there being like certain batch or two of weed in my history that I had gotten my eye on that like looked really good and smelled not good.
yeah.
But like you got a deal on it and you were happy to smoke that shit and get high off
Right.
of it, even though you were like, I'm pretty sure this is like killing me.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what this smell is exactly, but it's not good. But I don't know. I just feel like, did it kill me? No. Or
Mhm.
I just the test just these things that we're making up that are like the new dangers of weed, and we need to like have police to enforce the market. It just seems like we're winding up right back where we were.
Well said. How are we going to make the rights for those wrongs? Like, especially if it's a non-violent, like, you know, somebody growing 9 plants, like you described earlier. Like, what the hell are we doing? There's no reason to send the SWAT for that.
And it's just, yeah, I just can't see, like, you just need there to be an abundant amount of weed so that people don't have the incentive to do it illegally.
Right. Yeah. Well said. Well, once again, folks, colememo.com/minidoc. Check it out. It's just a little bit, like, the runtime itself is just a little bit under an hour. It's one of those movies that if you stay after the credits, there's a little bonus scene. So that's why it's just a little bit over an hour. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy it. I hope you check it out and you understand what our rub is with the system. And please leave me feedback, reach out if you can. There are many different ways to leave feedback. colememo.com/contact is a good way. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment if you watch it. It'll be on all platforms by the time you're listening to this. So whichever platform you listen to it or watch it on, please share it. And yeah, let me know what you think so that we can, because it's still a fluid project. I might re-release it, we can touch it up a bit. If you think there's more to add to the story, of course, let me know. And yeah, thank you all for your support so far. I've gotten a lot of good feedback and really appreciate it. Really appreciate people like you, Phil, for taking the time to come out and spending the time to watch it. I know there are a lot of different things you can watch. There's a lot of different entertainment. So if you take the time to watch my content, that means a lot. Like the Penguin Show on HBO. Great fucking show. I heard the Joker 2 sucked, was really bummed about that. I was hoping the new Joker would be good. Sounds like it sucks. But the Penguin Show, we all need a little bit of just not like entertainment to get your mind off all the crazy shit. And I don't know, the Batman universe just works for me. So
Is it Colin Farrell? Is that who's playing him?
Yeah, it's really good. People are saying that it's sort of like a combination of the Danny DeVito penguin character and the Soprano guy, Tony Soprano. That's basically the character. I see it. I started watching The Sopranos. I've seen the old Batman movie. I can kind of see it. But it's badass, man. It's like a gangster Batman movie. Anyways, though.
I'll have to check out an episode or two.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyways, folks, thank you if you've listened this far into the podcast. I hope you're smoking good. I hope you're taking care of yourself. And oh yeah, when I release the mini doc, I plan to take a little bit of a break, let the mini doc breathe a little bit. There is a veto session coming up. So unfortunately, I can't like not cover that, right? So you gotta come over to colememo.com/Patreon if you want to get that coverage. I'll be releasing everything for free, just as always. But I'm just gonna kind of let the mini doc breathe on the feeds a little bit so that everybody can get the chance to watch it so that it doesn't get buried in the feed, So come on over.
And when does the veto session start? It's like middle of next month, right?
Correct. Yep. Middle of next month.
It's like after the election, I think.
Yeah. My prediction is nothing's going to happen, cannabis or hemp.
That's what I was going to say.
And that is like, I'm not going to say a good thing. It's whatever. It sucks for the cannabis.
Well, I saw the Hemp Growers Association has some kind of town hall coming up.
Yeah. And an awesome new bill I've been hearing about. I can finally tease it, because they finally announced that they do have a bill coming out. So,
interesting.
I hear it's going to be one of the best goddamn hemp bills in the nation. So look out for it.
I'm excited for it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Well, see you on the next episode. Take care, everybody. Bye.